share it now, share it today. And so my focus, or more of what I want to share, is through my life, through my current example, what it is that I mean by opposition to opportunity, and how that applies to us, and how that's something that we can use as a way to pretty much learn from the steps that we're taking in life. So as far as a reference from the Bible, what I'm basing everything off of is Exodus 5. I'll give you a brief synopsis if you want to skip the part of reading the whole chapter. In Exodus 5, what's happening is that Pharaoh is just pretty much being in opposition. Simply put, the whole chapter, Pharaoh is just being in opposition. That's all it is. But towards the end of the chapter, we read that, well, the question is, why is it that I'm being obedient in sharing with Pharaoh what you're telling me, and then my people are just getting, kicked in the face for what I'm sharing? And there's no sense of opportunity there, just opposition. That's chapter 5. Now, with that in mind, Exodus 5. Let me give you another quick synopsis of how I teach my classroom. I am a teacher. I've been teaching this is my 12th year. And if you count tutoring and stuff like that, let's call it 12 years, 13 years that I've been teaching. So I like saying over a decade because it makes me sound like a prominent educator. I've been teaching for over a decade. But how I teach has nothing to do with my content. I believe that a teacher teaches, period. Content is just like a focus. So Proverbs 3:27, that's a verse I do want you to look up. And in Proverbs 3:27, I want you to read it to yourself. I don't want to read it in the mic because I want you to read it to yourself. And when you finish reading it, Proverbs 3:27, that encapsulates how I run my classroom, how I teach. And I'm going to paraphrase it the way I incorporate it into my classroom. I believe in effort, organization, and a growth mindset. A desire to learn and to love to learn with empathy and understanding. That's how I teach. Students need something to be done to them, which is to be educated. And I, as the teacher, it is my duty, my godly given duty, task, to give them what they lack, which is an education. And with that simple verse, that simple mindset, that's how I teach. And you would think, okay, well, great. This teacher is devoted to his students. Right? The perfect example of a teacher. And yet, 12 years in, over a decade in, I've been met with opposition. All 12 years have not been sunshine and rainbows, but have been nothing but struggles. One coworker of mine who told me that he was called out by the principal to have a meeting, and he even told me, the principal asked him about me. We've gone through 3 principals, or I've gone through 3 principals, and the third one, I believe, asked this teacher, a friend of mine, so what to do with this Gamas guy? And these are the words he said: that guy's been dragged through the mud, and yet somehow he's still here. Like he just refuses to give up. My first 3 years of teaching, I had no manager. So teachers have someone above them to coach them and help them. Had none of that. My first year, I got a manager. Within a month, he's like, I got a promotion. He left. So all year, I was kind of figuring it out. Second year, Brian, we got you a new manager. She specialized in math and science and this and that. A month later, she quit. By my third year there, I asked the principal, before you fire my new manager, can you just manage me directly? Sure, okay. And he took me under his wing. And so you would think for 3 years as an educator, I had no one to teach me how to be a teacher. And yet I taught. And I was looked out for by the principal himself. And in that opposition of I had no one to ask for help, I developed a sense of self-reliance. My growth actually was unobstructed. There was no one to tell me how to teach, so I had to figure it out how I wanted to teach. That's where the opportunity came for me to grab onto this verse and develop my teaching from there. In my time as an educator, strangely enough, I've been disliked by practically everybody, to the but for specific reasons. One of them being, for example, that I'm a strong advocate for us STAR-tested teachers, core content. And I'm always telling everyone, like, I'm all about sports and arts. I was in art growing up in high school, but I still think there should be like a certain page, like a pay disparity there. We should get paid more for teaching harder classes. And I make jokes like that, but that makes me disliked by other teachers. And you would think, okay, well, being disliked is no big deal, but no, it's in opposition, as in to the point where I was working in isolation. Anyone I spoke to asked for help, no one seemed to want to help me. I was just on my own in the classroom. But it developed in me, the opportunity there was that I developed a stronger work ethic to practice what I preach. If I'm all about doing good for others, and others are just not being good to me, well, that's not the point, right? That's not how I teach. So I just developed that strong work ethic, and I didn't realize until, again, 12 years later, or in this case now it's 8 years later, that I was developing and doing some prep work for future leadership and guidance, which I'll mention that in a bit. For a good chunk during the COVID time and a few years after that, I was under threat of termination practically every year, every month, everything I did was, do that again, you're fired. Do that again, you're fired. Do that again, you're fired. Then we had a new principal and had a meeting. That year, I didn't get my contract till the last day of summer school, so mid-July. They're like, fine, we're going to hire you again next year, but we're going to submit all these reports about you to the new principal, and then she'll decide she wants to hire you or not, or she might just fire you on the spot. This was because I refused to pass students. I was giving grades by mastery, so if a kid only knew enough to score a 15, I was giving them a 15. I was told, it's COVID, understand, they're at home. They're at home. So, give them at least a 70 for logging into the online class. And I thought, no, the kid did one question out of 50. That's, do the math, 2 out of 100, so it's a 2. I'm giving them a 15. I'm giving them 13 bonus points for smiling on camera. That should be something. And it was just constantly after something, which is funny because that opposition came from a previous opportunity. So now it's like a reverse thing where I was given, the year before COVID, I was told that I was going to be promoted to a new position where I was going to oversee teachers, and I would teach one class so others could watch how I teach and run my classroom, and then spend the rest of my day training others to teach how I teach. Then COVID happened, and what happened after that was the opposition was that I went from being a highly decorated teacher to now being under threat of being fired every single year after that. But the opportunity there was that I learned to stand my ground and just, if I told myself Proverbs 3:27 was going to be my root of how I teach, then I was going to just stand my ground. So the opportunity there was that I learned to just stand my ground in what I believed. After the little COVID time, we got a new principal, this and that. And moving fast forward now to these last, let's say, 3-4 years, now I've been, I'm a high-ranking teacher. They rank us by levels, so I'm considered a level 5 master teacher, which after 3 years, they're called distinguished master teachers. And recently, last year and this year, from the state of Texas, I've received recognition as a master TEA or TIA teacher, which is another high ranking for the state as well. So in other words, I'm like in the top 3% of all educators in Texas, as far as like the scores I provide, number one, but also the growth that students, when they walk into my class and leave my class, I think the percentage I got last week was 71% or more kids are growing at or beyond what they should learn in that one school year. That they're making multiple years of growth in just those months that I have them. And I'm not saying any of this part as I'm doing so great, life is great, but rather going back to the title or the focus of opposition to opportunity, all these things that I'm mentioning now that have gone well have been recent things that occurred after the opposition, right? No coaching, disliked. One of my annual performance reviews, the vice principal closed the door, and he just opened his notes and said, teaching-wise, you're great. Let's talk about you because no one likes you. You're aware of the highway kind of person. No one wants to work with you because they feel like you just ask too much of them, and you walk all over people because it's what you want and that's it. And I'm just sitting there thinking like, okay, sign the paper and okay, so do I have a job? Yeah, you're fine. Okay. I'm employed again, so that's fine. But the thing is, in my mind, I never had those thoughts of being against people. Listen, Proverbs 3:27. It's my duty. If it's within my power to do good on someone, I have to do it. And if that brings in opposition, the Bible gave me the opportunity to decide if I want to do it or not. And I chose to do it 12 years ago, or 13 if you count my years as a tutor. And I've been doing it ever since. And it's been met with opposition. I'm following a biblical principle. Right? Back to Exodus 5. I'm telling Pharaoh what you told me to tell them, right? And I'm being met with opposition. I'm being obedient. I would think there'd be some kind of favor in that, but apparently I'm being attacked for it. That's what I thought when I first started. But that's why I mentioned these recent accolades, I believe they're called, like awards and whatnot that I've been getting this year. And so all this happened, and somewhere in the middle, life just kind of seemed to feel just right. Settled in, right? Bonuses came in, the money, all these things that I mentioned that I get money for those things. So as a teacher, think of like my salary, which for being there over a decade, I also get like another bonus on top of that. Plus everything I earn, I get bonus. So like the money was like coming in, life seemed great, everything was fine. But then I began to kind of ask myself, and I believe Pastor said it during a sermon once, and I heard it, right? And instead of the in one ear out the other, it was like I heard it, it spun around a little bit, and as it came out the other side, it came out, but instead of like leaving me, it just kind of went out, and then back in, and then out, and it just sat there with me. And I forgot the exact words in Spanish also, so I'm going to paraphrase in English. But it was more like when things are going just right, which at the time I was like kicking back and, man, I'm making good money for a teacher. You would think I'd be running a company by now. When things are going just right with no change, nothing's changing, nothing's happening, ask yourself, so why is the enemy just leaving me alone? Saying, you're good, like live your life, enjoy it. And I thought, why is the devil just letting me enjoy my life? I thought the whole point of him being the bad guy is to do bad things. Not to be after you, but Brian, live your life. You've earned it, buddy. Enjoy your life. So I asked myself, why did the opposition stop? Why did I go through all these struggles year after year, dragged through the mud, earning my awards as a teacher, which, by the way, teaching math though it's the greatest subject in the world, and I always tell my students, if you can't do math, you don't deserve to be an adult. You should. Now, I say it as a joke because a lot of them, I teach in Alamo. So for those who know, Alamo is an area where, I go to Stripes and I'm waiting in line and I see the adults take out their wallet and they put their money and they ask the cashier, "Is that enough?" And I'm there in line like, "You can't count your own money." Like, I'm just waiting here. But that's the area I live in. A lot of my students tell me like, "Oh yeah, my parents didn't finish middle school or they didn't finish high school," so I get it. Empathy and understanding is again, how I teach. I understand where they're coming from. But I ask myself, why did the opposition stop? What opportunity must I be missing? The devil is saying, "Yeah, Brian, stay where you're at. Here's some money. Enjoy yourself." And here I am enjoying my life with all these good things, nice things. And I'm wondering, wait, that phrase the pastor said just kept running in my head. Why is the devil leaving me alone? Like, what must be over there that I can't see because there's a wall of teaching awards, and in my classroom I have a little bookshelf with my plaques, and they gave me one like a month ago, and I made a joke in my class to my students. They were like, "Congrats, sir, another award," and I told them, "Yeah, but my walls and I'm out of space of putting awards. Like, where else do I put this?" So I just put it like on top of a microwave, just like there. I don't know where else to put it. Or the other day I stapled to the wall like a poster with some recognition. But again, it kept running in my head. What is all this covering for me? And this was like, again, a few years back. So then when the opposition does strike, right, through the years, I had to ask myself, so why is the devil then, like, why is he in those moments actually opposing me? Like, what opportunity is brewing? What opportunity is there that he doesn't want me to uncover? So for that, you can turn to Proverbs 14:23. Proverbs 14:23. I want to switch my focus now out of my classroom, but to what I've been doing lately for the past year and a half, which is woodworking. I started my own woodworking business, though technically it's still a hobby because it's not really like a business. I don't have a like my own shop or anything, just a garage full of wood and tools and enough space to walk around the wood to grab a tool and then scoot underneath to get the other and then work on that. But I manage. So the question is, well, Brian, like with everything you just told us, why do you woodwork? Like, why do you need to do extra work if you're saying you make all this extra money as a teacher and everything's going great? What's the thing? In Proverbs 14:23, it says, all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. Now, before I explain why that verse explains why I woodwork, Chelsea gave birth to two beautiful daughters, the first one being Bailey, the second one being Charlotte, and she did so with the intent of staying home with them. Master's education, master's in linguistics. I like to tell my students, yeah, my wife, she's educated, has a bachelor's in English and a master's in linguistics. And I always tell them, like, if you give her any ancient language, she can decipher it and she can speak it. And obviously, I don't know what linguistics are, but don't tell her. I just know that it's, at one point when she was studying, she'll come home and show me, and it sounded like she was speaking languages and like making sounds with her mouth. And that was her studying Maya and Erastic language. I don't know. I don't understand that. I do math, right? The important stuff. But we decided for her to stay at home, to be home, to raise our daughters. And that became, or is currently, my biggest opposition to date. After all this fancy award stuff happened and teaching and whatnot, we got married. Life, again, was still good because her paycheck, my bonuses, life was good. But then she gave birth. And you would think, oh, what a wonderful thing. Yes, but that was met with opposition because the opportunity we had is, let's raise our daughters at home with their mother. And the enemy always doesn't want that. So what did he do? Well, in that case, time to struggle. Let's take away one paycheck. Let's go through those. I mentioned those years of struggle and possible termination and all these things happening and see what you can do. And I'm still set on Proverbs 3:27 about, like, I have to do what's right because it's in my power to do so. And right now it's in my power to do what's right for my daughters and have them be raised by their mother. So I have to do it. Yeah, it's not because I want to follow what we learn at church. No, it was a conviction in my heart from when I was teaching to now into my life. And because I said I would do it, I'm the kind of person that just, if I say I'm going to do it, like I have to do it. That's how I am. If I jokingly say, stop that ass, stop or I'm going to kick you, I'm going to kick you. Like, you can say, no, I'm kidding, I'm going to kick you. If I make a joke at work lately that, like, I'm going to egg someone's car. I told the principal, I'm going to egg your car, ma'am. Because, if, as a joke, she's like, stop kidding. But I told her the other day, I'm like, ma'am, I'm actually like, I'm serious. Like, if I say I'm going to egg your car, just watch out. Like, already got the students involved. We don't know what cameras to block and who's going to run out first and throw the first egg. Like, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do my utmost best to do it. But back to Chelsea. We want our daughters to be raised by her. And the money just wasn't enough. A single teacher income is no longer enough. It just isn't. Not to raise a family of four in this case, and a mortgage, and got her a new vehicle because the one we're in we're too small for already. So I needed something else to do. And I'm not a hobbyist kind of person. I don't have hobbies. If you like, I don't collect cards. I don't play video games. But if I do decide to do something, like I mentioned, go back to the egg thing. Like, I go all in. That's my definition of when I got into working out, CrossFit. Chelsea invited me to CrossFit one day. I liked it. So I went all in. Spent all my free time studying, practicing technique, cues for like when the bar hits a certain point, how to react to it, to the point where I got so good at what I was studying and practicing that the gym we used to go to, the owner was like, you want to coach here? Which you have to get certified to do that, but apparently my technique and my skills were at the level of people who have gone through like trainings for that. But I got it all through just studying, practicing. And woodworking was another one of those things that I just, through the years, just would be at Home Depot buying a screw to put up a picture and walking the aisle. I was like, hey, Chelsea, what's that? Look, it's a circular saw. It looks dangerous. Can I get one? And Chelsea was always like, yeah, just get it. Back then, when we had the money, she was very like, just get it. Chelsea, but that, can I have that? Yeah, sure, just buy it. And that's how I got all my tools, by the way. I was not woodworking. I was just literally teaching, doing nothing. And because at the store, I'd be like, that's a cool saw. Oh, that's a nice hammer. Can I buy it, Chels? Yeah, just buy it. And then when this happened and I wanted to make extra money, I thought, well, let me try the woodworking. I have all these tools that I've never used just sitting there. Let me try. I used to, in my backyard, I would buy wood and get a saw and just cut it for fun. That was my idea of, I'm going to take some fun time today and just cut some wood. Almost cut myself multiple times. I have some scars. Don't tell my dad. I have some scars on my arms where I saved Kevin once from cutting his face off. No, sorry, his arm off. Like he reached over a saw once this way with the blade going this way. So I pushed him and he fell back. And I'm like, Kevin, you almost reached into a moving. You could have cut your arm off. Oh, I didn't notice. What I didn't tell him before is that day before, there was a blade and a big piece. I couldn't reach the cut. It was a big piece of wood. So I put the saw down. The blade's spinning right here. And I actually had to push the whole thing. And I remember that day I pushed the wood to the saw. And the blade was right. I felt the heat on my cheek. And I cut the wood just to build like a little table. Or when I was cutting some aluminum hinges. And there were sparks flying everywhere. So I had like a shield of wood. And I was cutting and the sparks were just all like, I was trying to cut it. All these crazy things just for a little extra money. Like it seems kind of pointless to be doing all this just for extra money. But the thing is that the opposition there was that we weren't making enough. Like simply put, we just aren't. I guess technically you could say, I'm not making enough. So I need to do something else. And the verse there that we read was the idea of like, well, I didn't want to just be someone who talks about, oh, I'm struggling, life is so hard for me. Maybe, yeah, sure, I'm struggling, but if I'm going to work for it, I better work for it right. I better go all in what I'm going to do. Because if I'm serious about leaving Chelsea at home, then I need to, stick by it. And so all that hard work, I thought, right, Proverbs 14:23, all that hard work hopefully will bring me a profit. Right? It's a biblical principle. If I work hard, I'll make something, I thought. And as long as I don't just talk about it and complain, then I won't be struggling with poverty. And yet, now that we're doing the woodworking this past year, right, I realized, well, I'm not a salesman. I don't know how to sell myself or my product. I'm not that kind of person. Again, I keep to myself. So how am I supposed to build stuff and then sell it to people who don't even know that I make stuff? And then a random friend from high school reached out one day. Hey, I have a coffee cart and I saw that you're like making stuff. Can you fix it for us? Kairos Coffee, if you know Gabriel. And he gave me a chance. And I took his cart that he had, was falling apart. He gave me that cart. I have it in my garage. It's like my reminder of like, I just saw that cart and built him a new one identical to that one. And he liked it. And it's been a year or so since. He's already bought for me like 5 carts. You do the math, that's already thousands of dollars just for him alone. And I didn't notice, and I think my dad mentioned last week about this, like, even someone at work told me, like, yeah, you have a gift. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, like, how do you know how to build that? Like, I don't know. I see that stool, and in my head, I already know how to take it apart, how to put it back together, and like what goes where. But I can't explain it. I'll be in class sometimes writing stuff down, and kids stare at me, and they're like, what are you doing? Like, I'm calculating. If the blade is 1/16 of an inch, and I cut at 3 3/4, the piece of wood will have to be at a 22-degree angle for the pieces to match. And they're just looking at me like, how do you know that? I don't know. But I can see it in my head exactly how it all puts together. And Chelsea can vouch for me. I'll be cutting one day covered in dust, and the next day she walks in the garage, and I'm like, look, I built something. And she's like, wow, it looks really nice. But she doesn't know the hours I spent calculating, the hours that I spent just sitting there trying to figure out, how does this work? How does it work? And that was an opportunity that, right, through opposition, through not making enough, I found a gift that I never knew I had. My dad even asked me, like, how did you know that you were good at this? I genuinely don't know. When we were little, one day on a Saturday, he asked me, Fred, and Kevin to mow the lawn, and had a dog back then, Ruthie, that I tricked my dad into letting me keep. He got home from work, and I said, Dad, my friend gave me this dog, can I keep it? But it was already in the house. The person already left, so it was just already there. Yeah. I tried it twice. Second time, he said, no, get it out. But the first time it worked. Sadly, she died like shortly after. She had a heart issue. But that Saturday, he's like, hey, that morning, he threw some wood on the floor, some screws. You build a fence to cover this because the dog is digging a hole. My dad just left us there. And so Kevin picks the poo, Fernie's doing the edges, and I mow the lawn. And then, of course, hopefully Fernie and Kevin don't watch this, in true Fernie and Kevin fashion, Fernie went to his room. So my dad got home, he would come out and be like, yeah, I was here the whole time. Kevin was Kevin, so probably running around in circles or, I don't know, lost. I lost him. And I was just there with the wood and the hammer and the nails thinking like, okay, I'll make a fence. And I made like a super cheap fence. I remember my dad put it, oh, good job. And it fell down like hours later. But I thought, I built a fence. Left it alone. Again, I was like probably like 14. Fast forward like 10 years. And in class, we did a project and I gave the kids little pieces of sticks of wood. And I sat at my desk watching them build stuff out of wood. And I got 2 pieces of little balsa wood and hot glue gun. And before I knew it, all the kids were around me. I'm like, what? I built a little house with stairs and everything and like hallways out of like little sticks of wood. And they're like, how'd you do that? I don't know. But I made it. And the kid broke it like the next day. They stepped on her side on it. But all these opportunities that throughout my life, I didn't notice them. And then again, once this new opposition came, it's like it rebirthed that old opportunity. To the point where now, even the people that I build for lately have been all people of faith. Like they'll reach out, I'll build them something, and they'll make comments like, oh yeah, but God will provide. And I'll hear that and be like, interesting for someone that I don't know from Brownsville to just suddenly mention God. Or another person saying like, oh yeah, I'm trying to build this for my business, blah, blah, blah. But either way, it's in God's hands. Like he'll do so. And either way, like I still praise him for what he's doing in my life. Interesting. And more people that contact me, because I don't sell myself. I don't know how to be a salesman. I'm not robbing. I can't. If I have something that I want to sell to someone, I'll be like, do you want it? No. Oh, okay. Do you want it? Like that's all I know how to do. But strangely, they reach out to me, and the amount of work I get at first was a lot, and I couldn't keep up, and it felt good because, wow, people are looking out for me. But then I realized, wait, but the point of this was for her to be at home and for us to raise our daughters. Now I'm being kept over here, new opposition. Now I'm getting too popular with these carts, and I can't spend time at home because I'm at school all day and the garage all evening. And because of that, what's the point? So I began to scale back. No ads, kind of hiding from people. And now just the clients I get are just enough to cover our expenses for that month. And we get by. And we get by and we get by. So the year 2024 made a little bit of profit, but all in all, we got by with one income plus a little side business. And Chelsea at home with her daughters, who everyone that meets them say that they're years ahead in their speech and their behavior and their everything because they have a mother who's at home with them, who's highly trained in other things that she could do, but she chooses to use those trainings to teach 2 little, toddlers. I was going to use another word, but toddlers. We'll call them toddlers. That's a nice way to put it. In my head, I got a picture, but I don't want to say it. No, they're not. We don't spoil them. We despoil them when they spend time with the ones who spoil them. But that was 2024. And then 2025 came, how it has come. And I thought, well, once again, the teaching and the awards, life was good. Chelsea stopped working, it was rough, but back to, we made it. As long as we keep this up, people reach out to me, I build stuff for them, we'll get by. And 2025 starts with new oppositions that I wasn't expecting. My short-lived piece of 2024 ended almost instantly, like beginning January, already began with unexpected debts or money that I owed or things that I had to pay for that I didn't know I had to pay for, or that I knew but didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. People stopped reaching out to me as like before because I stopped putting ads and whatnot. To be more present at home with my family, I stopped coaching soccer, stopped doing UA academics, I stopped anything with extra work time to get more money from work. I stopped doing that as well because I wanted to spend more time at home. So now instead of like all those stipends that I got the year before that helped me get by were no longer there, so my paycheck also diminished monthly. And here I am thinking I'm trying to be obedient once again to what I believe in from the Bible, from what I've grew up listening to. I'm trying to be obedient to being present at home and being, a voice for my children. And now I'm not only not making enough as a teacher, but not making enough as a woodworker either. 2 jobs and I can't get by. And the year just started. And I'm already like 8, 9, 10,000, or not, it's like up to $9,000 in debt already from these things here. And the year just started. Like January 1st, 12:01 a.m. and then ding, you have an outstanding balance of what? And then another one, and just things started coming up, and I thought, how is that possible? How can what was going so well, I didn't change anything. Why did it suddenly stop being enough? And I thought back again to that circling phrase that kind of began to hear. Here I go again, and back in the ear. Why is the enemy suddenly so afraid of me? Why is the enemy suddenly so inclined to put something in my way as I'm just trying to walk? I'm not trying to be a millionaire or become rich. I'm just trying to live my life, enjoy my time with my girls, and have a happy wife, happy life. That's what I'm trying to do. Why is the devil putting so many boulders in front of me, such a giant wall in front of me now? Like, what is he so afraid of if I take the extra step? Like, why is he not letting me take that extra step? What opportunity must be brewing? And then suddenly, Chelsea does like her application, yearly application that we just check for the WIC. Is it WIC? She applies right every just to see if we'll get any kind of support, and we get it. Okay, that's something. Again, our daughters. Well, my dad already mentioned it, but Charlotte woke up the other day, like 2 days ago, 3 days ago, just woke up and started talking, and just won't stop. Charlotte, shh. Before, you gotta remember, before it was Charlotte was always like running around, but Bailey was always talking. Bailey, Lolo's talking. Shh. No, now it's Bailey sits quietly, and Charlotte stop, and she'll scream, and she'll be like, look, blah. Look, dad, daddy, mom. Okay. And yet in that, their love for Jesus also brewed. Last night, Chelsea spanked Charlotte. Se pasó. She spanked her, and then put her down and walked off. And Charlotte laid there like crying and like, and then Bailey, I was laying there watching it all happen, and Bailey's next to me. Dad, can we pray for Charlotte? And so I prayed for Charlotte, and then Bailey, Dad, I hear the angels coming. They're coming for Charlotte. And then Charlotte's there like Bailey, do you want me to pray again? Mm-hmm. And I pray again, and she's like, Amen. And again, all from me, from point of view, I'm just here trying to pay the bills. Come on. But why is the devil, like, he's trying so hard, and the little, like, the wall starts crumbling down. And again, that with Bailey, that with Charlotte. And those little views of, like, what's over there that the enemy does not want me to get to. Like, why is he so hell-bent on opposing my life now if I'm just trying to pay my bills, have enough for the groceries, which are through the roof right now, and just try to have enough money to get by. I'm not even looking for profits at this point. I'm just trying to get by. Right? The woodworking was a means to just get by, not to be rich and famous and own a company. So why is the devil, once again, so opposed now? What changed now? And I thought back, well, there's one opposition that we've never really dealt with or mentioned or talked about, or, it happens. It's happened 3 times that it just happens, and then we just kind of like, oh, well, it didn't work. And that's been, Chelsea's trying to get pregnant for our 3rd child. We've had 3 miscarriages. 4 miscarriages. The last one was, can I talk about it? The last one was a little traumatic. The baby actually came out. Chelsea had it in her hands. We were at the emergency room. It was like a weekday in the middle of the night, like 2 in the morning. And she calls me. Well, she didn't feel good, so she went to Chelsea, just go to the doctor, go to the emergency care. And we have an Alma like 2 minutes away. Just go. I was at home like with the girls. I'll stay with the girls if they wake up. Like, I'm here. Just go and see. Like, she has some bleeding. Maybe just nothing. She goes and she calls me. Brian, get here now. Which, at 3 in the morning, when your pregnant wife is bleeding, you kind of start to put the pieces together. And at the time, the girls are upstairs, so I couldn't just leave them there. But I didn't want to wake them up either. So I called her sister, her parents, like, hey, can you come just watch the girls while I go? And then I waited for them to get to my house so I could go to Chelsea. She calls me again, like crying, which again, I kind of figured when I got there, she told me that while she was like in the restroom and they were going to check her, like the baby came out and she caught it. It was this small. She caught it. She lost a ton of blood. They took her. She was like gonna pass out, kind of. And they let us hold a little container with the baby in there. We prayed for it. They took it away, disposed of it. And we just, okay, well, it happened again. But recently, with all this that I mentioned going on, all these years of my teaching and now we're working, and I thought, what is with this current opposition? Like, what else is there in that route that we haven't seen? And I thought, maybe it's because, maybe all this is happening now because of a new opportunity. Maybe it's because the devil really is afraid of what's coming in our lives because we're pregnant. Chelsea's 3 months pregnant. Right now. Yeah. She's 3 months pregnant right now. And these 3 months that she's pregnant, that's when the opposition started. That's when all this, my woodworking no longer enough, my teaching no longer enough. And I thought, why all this happening now? Or I guess in January because she got pregnant, like last week of December? Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to share about my life and all my opposition I faced through the years, that for some strange reason right now, the devil's afraid because he's doing whatever he can to not let me take the next step. And I'm wondering, what's in her belly that the devil's so afraid of? What's in her belly that he just doesn't want me to do enough for that child? All I say is bring it on, because as of right now, thanks to the opposition of my life, I've learned to stand my ground. Self-reliance, backed by biblical principles and teaching. I know how to get a job done when it needs to be done. I know how to go all in if I need to go all in. I'm prepared. So I thank God for the opposition because it's brewed in us, in our family, a new opportunity. Thank you.